I was completely blindsided when my husband, Terry, abruptly told me that unless the ownership of our house was transferred to his name, he would consider divorce. To me, this house was not just a place, it was a repository of cherished family memories, and the thought of losing it was unbearable. Despite my emotional attachment, his ultimatum felt like an attempt to manipulate my feelings. Overwhelmed and desperate for support, I turned to my father. My name is Patricia. I'm 32 years old and a full-time housewife. After marrying Terry 3 years ago, I made the decision to leave my job and devote myself entirely to our home. Terry has been the primary breadwinner, and life had been relatively peaceful until his father's death. That event triggered a cascade of changes, starting with his mother moving in with us. I was given only a day's notice, which was unsettling, but I tried to adjust. However, just as I was beginning to cope, Terry casually dropped the bombshell that my own mother would be joining us as well. He casually mentioned it after work, expecting me to make preparations for her arrival. I was stunned. I had thought her visit was just that, temporary. But no, she was staying indefinitely, and Terry had made the decision without consulting me. When my mother-in-law, Kayla, arrived, her demeanor was far from welcoming. She scolded me for not picking her up at the station, insisting it was common courtesy, even though I hadn't known her exact arrival time. "You're so thoughtless," she chided, adding, "This is why they say in-laws can be so inconsiderate." She walked into our home as if she owned the place, instantly settling on the couch and sulking. I was stunned by her lack of gratitude. Her sharp comments only intensified after that. Every morning, as soon as Terry left for work, Kayla would start criticizing me. "Patricia, why are you sitting there? Do the dishes. You should have done the laundry first thing this morning. It's just common sense." I would explain that I planned to do the laundry after finishing the dishes, but she would snap, "Wrong priorities. In my house, we did laundry right after breakfast. Haven't your parents taught you better?" Despite following a routine I'd established long before she arrived, it never seemed enough for Kayla. She constantly found fault, and the days I spent alone with her became increasingly unbearable. Then one day, a thought struck me. I remembered the house my father had passed on to me. He had retired and moved to the countryside, leaving me with their property. It wasn't far from our current apartment, and Terry and I had previously discussed moving there eventually. At my breaking point with Kayla, I decided it was time to bring up the idea of moving sooner than planned. "Terry, we need to talk," I said one evening. "Sure, what's going on?" he asked, looking concerned. "Do you remember the house my dad gave us? I've been thinking, maybe we should move there now." He seemed surprised. "That house? We talked about it, but why now?" "I've been struggling with your mother," I admitted. "She's difficult to live with, and it's affecting me. I think it's time we move. Since the new house isn't far, we can let her stay in the apartment for now." To my surprise, Terry agreed. We told Kayla the next day, and though I expected resistance, she surprised us both by accepting the decision with a wide smile. "Goodbye, Terry and Patricia," she said brightly. "Sorry for the sudden move, but it's all fine. Come visit soon." We exchanged a few more pleasantries, and Terry seemed relieved. "It's generous of your dad to give us the house," he remarked. "Of course, we're not far away," I replied, trying to mask my relief with a smile. And with that, we moved into our new home. I felt a surge of relief wash over me. No more sharp comments, no more constant criticism. I was finally free to set my own pace and establish my own routines. I had been anxious about how Kayla would react, but discussing the move with Terry had calmed my nerves. For a short time, peace reigned. However, my sense of relief didn't last long. Despite the distance from his mother, Terry began coming home later and later. It wasn't just the occasional late night. There were times when he didn't come home at all. He claimed it was because he was concerned about his mother, but his unannounced absences were starting to take a toll on me. "This can't go on," I thought one evening. It was time for another serious conversation. "Terry, you've been coming home really late lately. Sometimes, you don't even come home at all," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. He shrugged nonchalantly. "I'm just worried about my mother." "That's not the problem," I countered, frustrated. "At least tell me if you're going to be late, so I don't wait up or waste dinner." "Well, you're at home all day anyway," he said, "so you can eat the leftovers for lunch the next day." I was stunned. "Are you seriously saying I should just accept this because I'm a housewife? We can't even discuss this?" "What's there to discuss?" he responded, his tone cold. You're just home all day. It's easy for you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's not the point, Terry. And what's this about your mother? You said something about Amy coming back? Oh, right, he said, as if it were no big deal. Amy's moving in with us. She's always wanted a big house like the one she had abroad. It just makes sense. Amy? I exclaimed, feeling the blood drain from my face. Is she really moving in here? Are you serious? It's the only house that's big enough for her, he said, shrugging. The apartment where we used to live is cramped for 4 people, but I didn't plan to have us all live together. I just thought it'd be better to let Amy stay here. I felt the ground shift beneath me. I had barely adjusted to the new reality of my life with Terry, and now his sister was coming to live with us. This was my father's house, not a family hotel. I was stunned. Why? I whispered, struggling to comprehend. Because it's the best option, he said, as if this decision was already set in stone. I was stunned by his proposal, struggling to comprehend his reasoning. What do you mean? I asked, breathless. Because we plan to move back in with my mother. Amy can use this house, he explained nonchalantly. His words were completely unreasonable, and I felt my head spinning. Despite my firm refusal to live with my mother-in-law again, my husband only grew more enraged. Why can't you be a little more considerate? You're here because of my support, so just do what I say. This house is wasted on you, he snapped. Why should I give it to Amy? This house means everything to me. It was my father's, I protested, trying to hold on to my composure. Too late for that. I've already promised Amy the house. It's all settled, he said dismissively, as if my feelings didn't matter at all. You've made this decision without even talking to me, I replied, trying to stay calm. Enough, think about it. I'm going to stay with my mother for a while, he said, his voice sharp, before slamming the door and leaving. I was left in tears, unable to understand why he would make such a major decision without consulting me. Giving away the house I had inherited from my father was simply unfathomable. Over the next few days, he sent me messages asking if I had calmed down, pushing for me to accept his decision. Each time, I stood firm, reiterating that I would not comply. Then, one day, he called me again, dropping another bombshell. Patricia, when will you come live with me? He asked. Stop asking me that. I've told you already, I'm not living with Kayla, and I'm not giving up this house for Amy. I already promised her that I'd find her a big house, and that's what I'm going to do. His words only fueled my resolve. Who are you to talk like that? You're a housewife. You don't even contribute to the household, he retorted. What are you saying? This house was inherited from my father, and now you're telling me I have no say in what happens to it, I replied, my voice shaking with frustration. You're ignoring my feelings, he snapped. I'm not the one being unreasonable, I shot back. His voice grew heavier over the phone, and then came the shock. If you can't listen to me, then let's get a divorce. Hand over the house to Amy and leave by tomorrow. His words hit me like a punch. The thought of him using divorce as a threat without any regard for my feelings made my blood run cold. Wait, are you serious? I asked, horrified. Of course I am. You don't have a choice. You're a housewife. How will you survive without me? He mocked. I've heard enough. If you really want to go through with this, go ahead, I responded, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. But just so you know, my mother is looking forward to disciplining you. He hung up, confident I would cave, but I was resolute. It was time to take action. I called my father the next day and made plans. By evening, everything was in motion. When he called again, I responded calmly when he asked, by the way, when will Amy be back? She'll be back tomorrow, I replied. Why are you so obsessed with Amy? He asked, his suspicion clear. Between you and me, she seems to have made a fortune from stock investments, I added casually. I see, so if you give her the house, you might ask her for financial help, he mused. That's just like you, I said. Anyway, I need you to leave that house by today. It's causing inconvenience for everyone. Don't worry, I've already moved, I said coolly. What do you mean? He asked, clearly taken aback. I knew it. You don't want a divorce, do you? He continued, underestimating my resolve. You can't survive without me. Everything changes now. We're still married, but that won't last much longer. Divorce is on the table, I said firmly. What? I don't understand, he stammered. You promised Amy you'd give her the house, but I've already moved. Enough of this nonsense. Where are you now? He demanded, his panic mounting. I'm at my parents' house. I moved to their countryside home. I'm not coming back, I said calmly, watching his confusion turn to anxiety. You should have told me that sooner, he said, frustration lacing his words. If you really want to give the house to Amy, here's the deal. It's on the market for $520,000. Buy it for that price and then give it to her. I've already arranged for it to be sold, I told him, my tone steady. My father always said I could sell the house if I wanted to, and that's exactly what I've done. It's on the market now. He was furious. Why are you doing this without consulting me? This is unforgivable. I'm not asking for your approval, I replied. We're getting divorced anyway. You should realize your position. You're the one who'll be in trouble if we divorce. You're just a housewife, he sneered, trying to belittle me. I'd rather be independent and struggle than stay with someone like you, I said firmly. Wait, Amy will be back soon, he started, but I wasn't interested in his excuses. If you want Amy to have the house, she can buy it for $520,000. I've already made my decision. What? That's impossible, he exclaimed, stunned. Well, if she's made a lot of money, I don't see why she can't afford it, I replied, unfazed. I could see the frustration building in him. His manipulative tactics weren't working, and he knew it. I'm done with this, I said, my voice clear and resolute. You thought threatening me with divorce would make me surrender? You're wrong. I'm not the woman you thought I was. He tried to soften his tone. Let's talk about this calmly, he suggested. I am calm. You're the one panicking, I said. I won't let you control me or my life any longer. Go back to your mother and stay out of my life. And with that, I hung up. I blocked his number and sought legal advice, beginning the process of divorce. It took time, but eventually, the divorce was granted, with the fault lying squarely on his shoulders. He and Kayla remained in their cramped apartment, while Amy, unable to secure the house she wanted, returned overseas in frustration. My ex-husband's plans had collapsed. Burdened by alimony and the financial strains of living with his domineering mother, his prospects were dim. As for me, I found peace in the countryside, living with my parents. I began a new job, working as a clerical assistant at a local company. I was financially independent and content, enjoying a life of tranquility and rediscovering what mattered most, my own happiness.